Tonight, I'd like to share a story that has stayed in my heart for many years. Before we begin, I want you to picture a pair of old hands. Hands that are rough, scarred, and bent from years of hard work. Most people would never call them beautiful, and yet millions of people have admired them. Not because they were perfect, but because they told a story. A story of love. A story of sacrifice. A story of two brothers. More than 500 years ago, near the old German city of Nuremberg, there lived a humble family. The father was a goldsmith. He worked from sunrise until late into the night, often for 18 hours a day, simply to put food on the table. His hands were never clean. They were always covered with dust, tiny cuts, and the marks of endless labor. Even then, feeding his large family was never easy. Among his many children were two brothers who shared the same impossible dream. Their names were Albrecht and Albert. Ever since they were young boys, they spent every free moment drawing. They sketched trees, birds, old houses, and the faces of people they loved. As the years passed, their talent became impossible to ignore. Both dreamed of studying at the famous Academy of Fine Arts in Nuremberg. They believed that one day they could become great artists. But dreams are often much larger than a family's pocket. Their father simply could not afford to send even one son to the academy, let alone two. One quiet evening, after everyone had gone to bed, the brothers sat together in silence. Neither of them wanted to give up their dream, but neither wanted to take the dream away from the other. Then Albert quietly spoke. "What if only one of us goes?" Albrecht looked at him in surprise. Albert continued, "We'll leave it to chance. Whoever is chosen will study at the academy. The other will work in the mines and earn enough money to pay for his brother's education. 4 years from now we'll change places." For a long moment neither brother said a word. They both understood the cost of such a promise. Finally they reached across the table and shook hands. Neither of them knew that this simple promise would change both of their lives forever. The following morning their decision was made. Fate smiled upon Albrecht. He would leave for the academy. Albert would stay behind. There were no celebrations, no cheering, only a quiet embrace between two brothers, each pretending to be stronger than he truly was. A few days later, Albrecht packed his few belongings and walked toward the city of Nuremberg. Behind him Albert watched in silence until his brother disappeared beyond the hills. The next morning, before the sun had fully risen, Albert walked in the opposite direction, toward the mines. It was a place where dreams were buried beneath stone. The work was endless. The air was heavy with dust. The tunnels were cold, dark, and unforgiving. Every day, Albert lifted rocks that seemed far heavier than any man should carry. His hands became rough. His fingers cracked. His joints ached. Still, he never complained. Whenever exhaustion whispered that he should give up, he remembered one thing. Somewhere his brother was painting the future they had both dreamed of, and that thought alone gave him the strength to keep working. Meanwhile, Albrecht's world was changing. For the very first time, he stood among great artists. He learned from masters. He studied light, shadow, color, and the beauty hidden in the smallest details. His teachers quickly recognized something extraordinary. His talent seemed almost effortless. Before long, people began speaking his name with admiration. His drawings became more refined, his paintings more powerful. With each passing year his reputation grew. Yet every letter he sent home ended the same way. "Thank you, Albert. None of this would be possible without you." For long years passed. Finally the day arrived. Albrecht returned home. He carried with him Not only paintings and sketches, but a heart overflowing with gratitude. He had kept his promise. Now it was his brother's turn to follow the dream they had shared since childhood. That evening their family gathered around a simple wooden table. For the first time in years they were all together again. The room was filled with laughter. Their father smiled with quiet pride. Their mother could hardly take her eyes off her sons. When the meal was over, Albrecht slowly stood. He raised his glass and looked at Albert. "My brother," he said softly, "everything I have become I owe to you. Every painting, every lesson, every opportunity was only possible because you believed in me. Now it is your turn. I will work for you. I will pay for your education. The dream we shared is still alive." The room fell silent. Albert lowered his head. He didn't answer. Instead, he whispered only one word. "No." Then again, no. His voice began to tremble. Tears filled his eyes. For a long moment he could not speak. Finally, he lifted his hands onto the table. Slowly, carefully, almost as though they no longer belonged to him. The room grew completely still. His fingers were swollen, bent, scarred. Every joint had been damaged by years of crushing stone. "I can't," he whispered. "My hands," he paused, trying to steady his breathing. "They've been broken again and again." The cold, the weight, the years in the mines. He looked at his brother with a gentle smile. Not a bitter one. "I can no longer hold a brush." Another long silence filled the room. "I couldn't even draw a straight line, now let alone create the paintings we once dreamed about." No one spoke. No one moved. Albrecht stared at his brother's hands, the very hands that had quietly carried his future. In that moment he understood something he had never truly seen before. The greatest work of art in his life had never been painted on a canvas. It had been written in sacrifice. Years later, Albrecht Dürer became one of the greatest artists the world had ever known. His paintings traveled far beyond the borders of Germany. His name became a part of history. But of all the masterpieces he created, there was one that meant more to him than any other. It was not a king, not a queen, not a great battle, not a glorious victory. It was simply a pair of hands. Hands worn by years of sacrifice. Hands shaped by love. Hands that had given up one dream so another dream could live. Albrecht painted them with quiet reverence. Not because they were perfect, but because they told the most beautiful story he had ever known. Today millions of people recognize that masterpiece. Many know it as Praying Hands. They admire its beauty, its detail, its remarkable craftsmanship. But very few know the story hidden beneath every brushstroke. The story of a brother who never became an artist because he chose to become the reason another one could. Perhaps the greatest masterpieces are not always painted. Sometimes they are lived. Sometimes they are found in the quiet sacrifices no one applauds. In the hands that work so someone else may dream. The old storyteller gently closes his book. He looks into the lantern's warm light, then back at you. "My friend," he says softly, "we often celebrate those who stand in the light, but never forget the ones who quietly held the lantern." He smiles. "Until our lantern shines again, take care."